Here we go. Welcome, everyone. I want to welcome you back to the Live with Sondra show, where we dive into conversations that spark new thinking and shine light on the people shaping the future of attractions and hospitality world. So let me start today with our question of the day for those of you listening or watching. We'd love to hear your feedback in the chat. Send us a message. Let us know your thoughts. But my question for today is, when was the last time you had a truly unforgettable experience at an attraction or restaurant or destination? Was it memorable? Was it smooth service? Did you receive a single moment of kindness? Or was there something unexpected that made you feel seen, valued, and even delighted? That's exactly what we're talking about today: the art and the impact of experience design and the internal culture that makes it possible. But before we get started, first we have a word from our sponsors. This episode today is brought to you by Gatemaster Technology, the original attraction innovators behind the cashless system, and now industry leaders in food and beverage point of sale and integrated mobile ordering. So I want you to imagine this: your guests relaxing in their cabana or lounge chair, ordering burgers, drinks, and desserts right from their phone. With Gatemaster's mobile ordering technology, they can browse your full menu, place their orders, and get notified via text when it's ready for pickup or delivery. No lines, no hassle, just more time enjoying your experience. Our mobile ordering system has been proven to increase revenue by 20 to 40%. We believe it's because guests can spend more time with your menu and less time waiting around. And it's not just about convenience. Gatemaster gives you everything you need to run a smooth operation: full back of the house management, location tracking for efficient pickup and delivery, seamless tipping and tabbing, real-time text notifications for guests, and yes, our original cashless system is fully integrated. It's all part of delivering a modern, connected, guest first experience, one that keeps your guests coming back. So if you're ready to upgrade your food and beverage service, visit gatemaster.com and learn how you can make your operations smarter, faster, and more profitable. At Gatemaster Technology, we're leading the way in cashless convenience and next gen guest service technology. Now back to our show. Our guest today is someone who has been helping organizations deliver unforgettable experiences for decades. Phil Bruno is the Chief Experience Officer and founder of Treat 'em Right Experiences, with over 45 years of experience in tourism and hospitality, including 17 years at Anheuser-Busch. Phil is an award-winning trainer, consultant, and speaker who's led programs for over 100,000 graduates. That's right, I said 100,000. He's passionate about elevating both the guest experience and the employee experience, because one can't truly thrive without the other. And I can promise you this: if you are leading a team, hiring seasonal staff, or trying to stand out in a crowded market, today's conversation will give you practical, powerful perspective and maybe even a little inspiration. So grab your coffee or maybe a quad shot in honor of Phil, and let's get into the show. Phil, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Had my quad shot earlier today. I'm ready to roll. I only get one, and that's it.
One quad shot. So tell me about this quad shot, because I'm a coffee drinker, but I don't even know what that is.
Oh, well, it's 4 shots of espresso and a little bit of milk, and you put it in the steamer, and you got a quad shot latte. I got hooked on it, back in the 90s, I guess, when I was managing an attraction, and you don't have time to sit around and drink coffee all day, so get loaded and go. That's what I did.
I love it. I love it.
Just get loaded and go.
I love it. I'm actually a big fan of coffee myself. You and I were talking earlier about pets. I'm walking this shepherd I got, this puppy shepherd. I walked him 3 miles today. So I said I have to at least walk them a mile and a half, 2 miles a day, but I walk them 3 miles. But my motivation is the coffee shop in between. So that's what gets me going is that coffee shop. But thank you, Phil, for being here today. And I know that this is going to be a really enlightening conversation for a lot of people because you've had 45 years of experience in attractions and in experience in culture design. And I'm curious if you don't mind me just jumping into some questions for you.
Go. Let's go.
If you wouldn't mind, one of the things that I'm curious about is we know that today's visitor experience expectations are fundamentally changing. And this is something that we kind of talked about in our pre show conversation. And do you believe is maybe the most critical shift that attractions must address right now? We're just jumping right into this.
I'm going to say anticipating needs. And the only way you can do that is to know what the expectations are and what the needs are to begin with. So you have to be in touch with the customer before they even get there. Your marketing department will try to do that. They will try to put out the messages that your brand uh, postulates and says, if you come here, we will make you feel like this. So everyone needs to know the brand promise because you know what? You're the brand promise keeper. You have to keep the promise of what the brand
Yes.
has said. If you come to our attraction, this is how you will feel. We will make you feel great about the time you spent with us, the money you spent with us, the choice that you made. And here are the activities and things, different parts of the experience we have for you. And if everybody is in tune with what the brand promise is and how they keep the promise themselves, working at this area or that area, and anticipating the needs of the guests, it's like one place I worked, we were doing so well. We wanted to figure out the questions that go through people's minds as they were in different parts of the park. So uh, we had a customer focus committee. And once we found these things out, we started finding ways to answer everything that was in people's minds with a yes. So before they answered the questions, we knew what they were, and we had already fixed our found our way to yes through the questions that were already in their minds and coming. So the question. So what is your question? The answer is yes. Wouldn't that be nice if we could do that for everyone? Well, you can. Um, there's barriers from time to time to procedures and operations and budgets to say yes to everything, but there's also alternative ways to say yes. Are but or no, but we can do this, or let me offer you this. So there's always ways to anticipate need. And that's, I guess, the answer to the question would be learn how to anticipate needs, find out what people want, and give it to
Yeah, and I love what you said about the brand promise. I don't think I've ever heard it put that way
them.
before today, and I've heard people say, keep the agreements that your marketing team is making. I've heard
Yeah,
that before, and I've heard
yeah,
that I've never actually I really love it you said your frontline team is the promise keepers, right? That's
absolutely.
such a huge mind-blowing thing for me right now because I've never heard it put that way, but it is so true. At the end of the day, your marketing is promising these experiences. They're promising that they will feel a certain way, and your team needs to be aligned with that so they keep that promise that your attraction or your experience is making with regards to that. And you've emphasized in your work experience design, right? And and I'm assuming that when we're not talking about the actually design of the experience, but this experience design from the perspective of your frontline staff or of your team members. And while I know a lot of attractions are doing a really great job at this. In fact, one of my colleagues, Tiffany, was just out at IAPA at an IAPA event last week at Holiday World. She was just blown away by the frontline staff and the care that they took with each and every person that was there, and how much they exceeded the expectations of maybe that brand promise that they were making. And I mean, we thought we saw it all, but we had never been to Holiday World. And she's telling me that she's like, you got to go because this is incredible what they've
Yeah.
done. But what is one tangible action attraction operators can take in designing these experiences, and how do they routinely exceed new visitor expectations like that? If that's something that you're not already doing, what would be that one thing that you would say they could do?
Well, of course, it has to be customer focused, employee involved with continuous process improvement. There is no such thing as a SOP anymore. There hasn't been an SOP in 25 years, I think. If you're still using them, you need to smack yourself and wake up. We are now using current best practices. The current best practice is something that, as a team, we all agree upon is the best way to get this done today. And until we find another and better, different way, we'll all agree to live with this one. And this is how we do what we do. So, like I say, as a team moving forward, and that has a lot to do with the internal culture. I mean, if there's one thing that you have to focus on is what happens inside definitely gets reflected outside. I actually used to not test, but survey my own employees on their experience month and month. As a matter of fact, I had a large firm, outside firm, do the guest experience expectations and surveys as well. For the same period, of course, I would break it down for the employees, and then once I got the two different surveys back, it's so tough to get into the 90s when you're talking about guests, but it's even tougher to get into the 90s of meeting and exceeding expectations for employees. So what we found was there was a 10-point difference between my employee satisfaction and my guest satisfaction. And we were kind of in the 80s, the upper 70s and 80s with the employees. And the guests were in the 80s, upper 80s, I would say, because this was a free attraction. And however, it was also very traditional, had been around the city for a long time, for several generations. I went there I was in kindergarten, and I ended up being over the 100 people in the operations when I was in my 30s. So 10-point correlation we found when we got the highest we ever got. Now, this took us 3 seasons. From our employees was an 87. 87% of people said, wow, this is really cool. We love working here, and this is great. And it's exceeding my expectations, or it's exactly what I thought it would be, one of the two. And now we got to 97 with the guest experience. We realized a long time before that year that the employee experience actually drove the guest experience higher. When we got a higher on our employee experience, we knew because we had to wait for that one because it was an outside big firm to come in like 7-8 weeks later. After the end of July, we'd get it in like September or late August. But after a while, we kind of knew it was coming, which was really cool. But it took a while to get there, and then generations of change. There's generations of change that you have to go through, and people will change. Change is not easy. Change management is a very tough subject and a hard thing to go through. But as a leader, you have to realize that getting to yes and exceeding expectations, or at least meeting them every time for every guest, is really the goal. And there's so much reward in that. The higher we got with guest experience, the higher the gift shop sold. The more there was in retail sales. Yes. People bought more food. they found that they had more time, where we would eliminate dead spots in our experience, where we had problems with transportation or things that took time that shouldn't have taken time. We fixed those problems over time with problem solving teams. Once again, it was employee involvement. You can get there. It takes a leader that knows how. It takes a leader who maybe has done it before, or at least has been on the other side trying to get it fixed from the inside, and might have been frustrated in his or her own right, but or come in from somewhere else. So it can be done. It can be done. I can tell you I've done it.
Well, I think it's really interesting that you said that the correlation between the employee satisfaction and guest
Yeah,
satisfaction, right? Like that
yeah.
is something that I think a lot of operators maybe aren't looking at, right? I mean, if I'm being completely real, I'm hearing this for the first time. I worked with hundreds of attractions, and I can see where that makes sense because it is the employees who are providing a lot of the experience. They make up a bit of the experience, so of course their feeling about their workplace environment, the culture that they're in, certainly would play a role. I could see in how the guest experience is and what the guest expectations are. And you kind of highlighted the correlation between internal culture and guest expectations, which is what I think you're saying there. What is maybe the strongest indicator that attractions internal culture is truly set up for success? Is there some sort of indicator of that?
Low turnover. Low turnover. Our industry is set for 70% turnover, just normal. We have peaks and valleys we have seasons where we staff down, we staff up. It's going to be easily 70% turnover. You'll find places that have 200% turnover, and that's
Wow.
not good. you know,
Sure.
when you think about it, although core group of employees may stay, all these other around keep turning and churning. Well, a guest doesn't know who's turned and churned. A guest doesn't know who's core, and they're getting different experiences, different feelings, different I don't know, different impressions from other people who are new and constantly in training, or maybe they picked the wrong, or it's too hot that day, or it's just a nasty time for them. With turnover, you're going to have to suffer through, not meeting expectations very well. So internal culture keeps good people. It keeps good people. And I also found out that the best recruiting that you can do is from the people that you have that are part of that get it.
Yeah.
I found that they don't want to bring people in that won't make it. They want other people to be happy at work like they are. And if they need some skills, hey, they need some skills. We can deliver that in training. I think that's part of it too. When you talk about bringing people into an organization, the orientation and the training has to be done well. It can't be slap hazard. It can't be um, every 30 days. Because on day 31, guess what? Somebody just started. What, they're going to hang around for 3 weeks without training? No, it has to be available and
Yeah.
constant, and the latest of which what we know. So it has to be available, it has to be constant, it has to be excellent, and it has to have everything involved with it that you need them to know, um, without necessarily having to sit 25 people down or 10 people down and go through some slides and do the whole thing. There's other ways to do that now, and I do a lot with online learning right now, and it's the preference of the younger generations to begin with, and they don't have to go somewhere and sit and listen and not get paid on their day off or something like that. It's not That's not a good thing. So there's so much, have it available, uh, consumable, kind of the way they want to consume it, and done by a professional who understands adult learning. Um,
Yes.
is particularly important now post-COVID, because we can't ask people to watch a screen for more than 5 seconds without changing that screen one way or another. They
Yeah.
just they just won't. You can't do it anymore.
Well, I mean,
So,
it's so much distraction, right? Like, so
oh,
as somebody who's training teams or leading teams, you're right. You've got to meet them in a place where they are wanting to do this, and which
exactly right.
is online, right? Free
Yep.
from the distractions. How do you keep their attention? How do you keep them engaged? And I'm a big fan of learning management systems. I think is what you're referring to. Because you can keep score. I'm in the process of getting a beast of a certification right now. And it's harder than anyone I've ever done before. But the LMS that they're using and the way that they're presenting the information, it makes it easy, right? It makes
Yeah,
it
it
easy to
should.
get through it.
Yeah,
And
that's learning design. I mean,
yeah,
a professional did that. It's not a mistake.
yeah.
It's what we know works right now, and that changes. So, you know, learning professionals keep up, and don't waste your time or money. That's important to find somebody who knows what they're doing, not just somebody who's done some training in the past and can stand up and talk through slides. Those days are pretty much gone.
Well, it's interesting because I don't know if you know this about me. I introduced a product to IAPA back in 2019. It was called you know what? I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. We essentially got an award for actually, I still have it on my desk here. We got a brass ring for employee management system. Now, it was an MVP. So that was 2019, November 2019. So 2020 happened, and
uh,
literally it became a back burner project for us, and then also not something a lot of parks were investing in 2020 because they were trying to save their parks. So it was a nice to have, not a must have.
yeah,
But to your point, one of the things that we were looking at when we were building this management system, and I hope to make that something that, at the very least, I hope somebody designed something like this out there because it was such a great idea and it gamified the training. And this is the generation that's coming. They want to get achievements. They want, even
yeah,
even today, when I finished my walk with my dog, my phone sent me a thing saying, you just got an award for 4 weeks of consistent walks, right? And I was so proud of that. And it's like, who nobody knows this but me, but I'm like screenshotting it and wanting to post it on
yeah,
the internet. I was proud of that. So I see your point of training needs to be happening every day, almost, with your team. And if you can make it accessible to them, I mean, even if it's just a little bit of something, maybe you just have them watch a video today on how to make a guest happy, right? Because I think what
yeah.
you're saying is this
It,
doesn't
it,
come naturally.
it's that easy, and it's also we used to have lineup meetings. We call them in the morning, first before opening. It was only 5-10 minutes, but it was something.
Sure,
It was something. If you didn't have a thought, we gave you the thought for the day. If you were
right.
it was checking on. It was not only taking attendance; it was also checking where everybody was and making sure, that either a lead or a supervisor or somebody who was holding the meeting, which is not really a formed meeting, it was a stand-up thing, was pointing north for today. Here's who's coming. We know about these groups. We know about this. We know about that. VIPs. Here's what's going on. Anything else? Uh, you know, anything new or different about the transportation? Does anybody have any questions? Anybody want to bring anything up? Okay, ready, go through it all, whatever it takes, and just go. It was just a contact point every day. And
Yeah.
I know at attractions that are open, 12, 15, 16 hours a day. It's a rotation of employees from time to time. So there's different ways to communicate to people. Sometimes it's the blackboard. Sometimes it's the electronic screen that goes across. Sometimes it is quick video. So I think that the mix matters just as well
Yes.
as the delivery and the message.
Yeah. You've gotta make it fun today, right?
Oh
Like
yeah,
fun workplace, you
fun
know.
workplace, and that's how. And you will learn what fun is if you just keep asking.
Well, I'm curious, you've mentioned discovery visits. Do you mind telling me a little bit about that?
Sure, I work for cities often. For instance, the city of Cleveland, Ohio, has hired me to come in. Oh, this was 2015. Just an example. Uh, People didn't want to come downtown anymore. They hadn't been coming downtown because it wasn't safe, or this or that, or it's just dirty. And they heard these stories, and people who lived 20 minutes away in the suburbs hadn't been there for like 10,
Sure.
15 years, you know. Maybe sneak in for a ball game to watch the Cleveland ball team or the football team, and then back out and never come back down and never spend money around the parks or anything like that. So uh, they said, Phil, one of the things I do, the discovery visits, I insist on going to the city, of course, and spending time walking around and being a visitor and seeing how people make me feel. That's the experience part of it. How do they feel? How do they make you feel? Where's the level of hospitality that's happening here? And so I give me an itinerary for 2 days that a typical guest to your town would have, and I'm going to do it. I'm going to go everywhere and do everything that you told me that needs to be seen. And I'm not necessarily looking for the quality of the food or the attraction, safety, or anything like that. But I'm looking for how are people interacting? How are the workers interacting with guests? And it was interesting that some of the city had problems with transportation, and that was really, really obvious. Cabs were not that good. So your first impressions were not good. So,
Sure.
and then, I learned from that. I also make sure that I interview workers. For instance, I would ask for 3 or 4 different spots where I could interview 3 different workers at each place. Now, I want to meet, if they can arrange this, when we talk to the management, say it's a hotel, I want to meet a star, okay, somebody who's always doing the great things that outperforms others. I want to meet a solid citizen, a person who that person is the kind of person that when you interviewed them, they'll say things like, "Well, I change my oil every 3,000 miles in my car." That's a solid citizen. They're going to be there for you every time. No high highs, no low lows. You can give them the keys, and they'll put the coffee on first thing in the morning before anybody gets there. It's a solid citizen. And then another, I want to meet a problem child. We all know what that means. Someone who kind of skates the line of what's acceptable and what's not, and what's acceptable and what's not, and kind of gets along that way. Fine. You know what? All 3 of them have different needs for learning. And when I sit with each one separately, okay, I hand them the questions. There's only 3 or 4 questions, really. A few questions to get them talking about themselves. Why do they do what they do? What's in this for you? What has to be part of a job for you? I get them to talk. And then the final question is, we're going to build a training program from scratch here. Uh, what do you want? What is that? What's got to be in it for you? And I get those answers, and sometimes they'll surprise you.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll really surprise you. Sometimes the problem child is a thinker, and you never knew that. Nobody's asked them what they thought. Sometimes, the solid citizen says, I don't know. I think everything's just fine, but this is not for me. But this is for those other people. They need this and they need that. And the new people are different than I am, or they're younger than me, and that generation doesn't get this. So make sure that's in it. So we get all those listed and correlated and jumbled up, and you can see the highest need, the medium need, and then the kind of ones that are all over the place. And you make sure that's part of the training program. And you make sure they know that you listened and that it's in there. That's so much, that goes so far with people. You can't just promise or set the expectation and not meet it. I want to exceed that expectation. I want to do that in a much more professional way than they've ever seen it done before, so that inspires them to do that themselves. So, um, yeah, my discovery visit. I'll also meet with stakeholders in a city. People that own the attractions, people that are restaurateurs, people that are hoteliers. There's usually sometimes, in cities that are more advanced as far as owning their own visitor experience, they'll have a committee like that beside their board. They'll have a committee like that, and of members or partners that are partners of the visitor experience Cleveland, and they did. They had one there too. So. Uh, Pretty much the same question: what do you need in this training program? So you got to get them all involved, get the information, make sure you use it. Quite honestly, 90% of the time I kind of know what they're going to say, but it's that 10%, where it's that 10% difference that really makes the shining star of what this training program is different for and better than what people have seen before. So that the discovery visit is very important.
Yeah, and it's interesting. What I love, you said earlier in the show that we're not doing SOPs anymore. We're doing best practices, and it seems to me that those are living things because as you
Oh, they
pull
are.
the team over and over again, you're going to get different answers as times and generations of people change, and then also as like the next generation of people you got to anticipate a whole different need in terms of training. And I mean, I look at how my kids learn today, and it is so different than how I learned, right?
Me
And
too. Me too.
so
My
I hear what you're saying.
Oh yeah, it's so true. Not only that, but the worker has changed. The generations have
Yeah,
changed. In my training programs, I include one 5-minute lesson on generational differences. We have to address it. It's there, and it helps. It helps people with the generational differences, and it's not just. I don't talk about generational differences between coworkers as much. I talk about generational needs of guests, different needs. The baby boomers that are 60 to 80, they may be traveling with 3 generations. They may have a
right.
grandchildren, their children, themselves. So their needs are different than Gen Z, who's just starting to travel, get out there on their own, or millennials who are having small children and or still kids in grade school or even high school, and they're getting around. It's different. So that's generations have a lot to do with it, and expectations and how they were raised and how the world changed them as they grew up, and it's an important investment in time. I think.
Yeah, I think that's really a great point to bring up. And one thing that we've done in our home is our kids are all Sudbury kids, so they're mixed ages throughout their entire education. They're always mixing ages, including, working side by side the staff. And one of the things that I've noticed is, and I appreciate you bringing it up. There is a little bit of ageism that happens, right? Not just younger generations, but also older generations. And you're right. It is I've never had anybody come on the show and mention that, hey, we've got to consider the different generations that are visiting the park because their needs are different. For
Absolutely.
sure, if you've got 3 generations traveling together, they're going to have different needs than
Oh
somebody
yeah.
who just has, you know, a, a stroller for little kids, which I've been there too, right?
Yep.
And it does change the experience based on the group of people who are coming, but also having your team educated on how they can best deal with that. IAPA just did a meetup over at Morgan's Wonderland, an amazing place. It's the most inclusive park today, and they see a lot. They have a lot of families uh, who have children with disabilities, and they have a quiet room that they don't announce to the public because they're like everybody would want to
No.
be in this room on a hot day, right?
Yeah.
But all of their team members have been trained to in when they see someone having a hard time and needing that space,
Right.
every single team member knows that
So
they
important.
can show them that space.
Yeah, you have to recognize first. It's so important. Another lesson I have in my programs is social inclusion. And you just said it, recognize and know the resources and, know how to help folks. And the people who've done so much work in this is, I have to say, museums.
Yeah,
Museums have focused so much on special needs for a long time now. And I really admire, the time and budget and that they've taken and the amount of effort that they've taken to make sure that everyone is taken care of as far as they can possibly see. So
right.
they've been out there for a long time now. Good place to benchmark, by the way.
Well, I heard it put a very interesting way. I am a delegate for a team that is helping open the Outlier Center of Inclusive Design at Cambridge University out in Cambridge, in the UK. And what was interesting is one of the professors said one time, he said, when we design to include everybody, what you're really thinking about is all of our future self, right? The end of the day, so, I mean, this should be something that everybody is considering always, right? Because we're all at some point are still going to have these experiences and hope that people know how to take care of us when we get there and that's there for us. Well, I know we're bumping up against time, but I really wanted to hear from you on the Hope at Home program. I know that you provided over 7,500 certificates to unemployed workers during COVID. And, I know people get so tired of hearing about the pandemic, but that was it was such an interesting time for so many people, especially entrepreneurs like myself and people who had to be out there and figure out what we were going to do. And what you did, 7,500 people for 7,500 unemployed workers, I think we got to showcase that here today.
Oh, thank you. Um, it's just what you said. How are we going to make this? What's going to happen here? I had 7,500 contacts in my LinkedIn pages and my LinkedIn friends. And toward the end of COVID, I had 1,500.
Wow.
Our industry, the tourism industry itself, lost 75% of our
Yeah,
workers. The money comes from in tourism from hotels, taxes handed over to DMOs that manage the attract not manage the cities or manage the destinations. And those people are gone. And what did they have to take with them? Not much, And I thought, you know what? I have done a lot of management development training over the years, for not just within this industry, but in other industries, Fortune 100 companies, Fortune 500 companies. I mean, you name it, religious, not for profits, even places that would, the gas company, the electric company, for managers and supervisors. And I just thought it was time for me to share that with everyone. And so my videographer and I got together. I says, listen, I can't rent a studio, but and pay an actor right now, but let's figure out how to do something right here at my own house. We put a studio together. He knew exactly what I needed to buy. I did it. I started recording myself. I took those programs. I put them up live on my learning management system that I built had built for me and my clients only, and started promoting it. These people needed some skills that maybe they didn't have in
yeah,
the jobs they had before, and it's just encouragement, to me, on coaching skills, how to work with others, how to do interviews. One of the big things I put on there, I did about 800 interviews. When you have a lot of seasonal employees, you're going to do a lot of interviews. And
sure.
then, so I really got into behavioral interviewing skills and how to do that well, and how to choose people well, how to slot people well, how to put them in the right place for them to be more successful based upon their answers of what they did in the past. When you know what you're going to dip them in, you want to know if they've been dipped in it before and how they reacted. because that's what they're going to do when they work for you. So, things like that, just to put through to people to say, by the way, you're going to be on the other side of this interview now. And here's what interviewers that I've trained are looking for. We want to hear exact information. We don't want things to be vague. If you're going to tell me a story, I want to hear stories. I want to hear uh, the titles. I want to hear what time of year it was. I want to hear what the problem was. I want to hear how you fixed it or how you didn't fix it, how you failed, and you learn from that. So be specific. These are the things we learn for when we do interviews. So I'm turning the tables and teaching people how to do that. So it caught on, which was nice. I also was networking within a lot of different Facebook groups, and because the industry started forming their own self-help groups, which was cool, you know. And so I got in there. I started, showing people what I was doing, and the word spread, and they started taking it, which was pretty. I don't know. It made me feel good that I did something that helped other people, and that's pretty much what I do. I help people. It's whether it's frontline skills or management skills, or so that they can enjoy the work themselves. My gosh, if you don't love what you're doing in this industry, it's going to show and it's going to wear. So,
Yeah. Yeah, because it's not easy. Look, what the work that's being done in this industry, we all know it's not easy. We were just talking about it. We were talking about earlier today. We don't see a lot of the operators watching live during the summer. The winter time we do, but in the summer because they're actually out there doing the hard work that it takes to allow people to visit, to have the thousands of visitors in
huh,
their parks and attractions doing to just the sheer work of what they do. I've been in this industry for 25 years, not quite 45 yet, but I hope to get there. And I have plenty of friends who are working in parks, and I know not to bug them until September,
right.
right? It's
Yep.
just the way that it is. They're doing
Yep.
their thing, and it's not an easy thing, but if you love what you do, and so many of them do love what they do, and I think a lot of that comes from what you've shared today, training your team, providing them with the right resources to make them feel confident. We know, so one of the reasons that when we started building our learning management system, that gamified it, one of the reasons that that was so important to us is because we knew that the reason most people quit their job is because it's not even because they're unhappy with the culture. Oftentimes it's just they don't know, they're not confident in what they're doing.
I
What a
agree. Yeah.
rough place to be.
Yeah. I hear you. It's part of the reason why I went into this. In my earlier days in high school and college, I worked at places within the industry that I was, travel and tourism industry that I was going to school for. And I was, I would say I was victim of so many poor managers,
Yeah.
you know, and however persisted. And I knew that, I was getting good formal training for management and all that through my college degree in travel, transportation, and tourism. And I didn't want other people to go through that either. I don't like when people cut their teeth on other people.
Yes.
It's
Yeah, I
not
agree.
good. It's not good. And so often it's just because they don't know how to do better. That's all they've ever seen. And that's unfortunate. So, making training and education on behaviors and skills and your approach and what's your natural management style when it comes down to it under pressure, what do you really like? And then learning how to uh, know the difference between different management styles and be the kind that you need to be for the situation you're in. That really matters. And that's a talent and it takes practice. So if you don't even know about it, how could you possibly know how to move up and down the dial of management style to, situational management? And that's a key, and that takes there's a you need to have a budget to train people
Yeah.
in management like that. Really
Well, and
good.
I think if I'm hearing you correctly, and I think I am, Nobody, my husband says this all the time. No kid on the planet is going to say, I want to grow up and be managed. That's not something, when you ask a kid what they want to be when they grow up, nobody says managed. And I think what you're saying and what this really embodies is also that coaching side of things. People want to be coached. That's what training is. That's what coaches do. They train you. They train you on
Coaching
things. They
coaching skills has been the number one hottest topic for the last 25 years, since the 90s easily. I mean, since the late 90s easily. No, nobody wants to be managed. Gen X did not want to be managed. That they blindsided me. They didn't think like me. They didn't want to work like me. They didn't. I mean, they had things to do after 5 o'clock. Man, we got to go. We're not going to stick around and have beers and pizza with you. They
right.
got things to go. It's kind of blindsided me. So I looked into the different generations, and I learned a lot from that. And it takes work to be able to change your management style.
Yeah.
It takes work, and you're going to make mistakes, and but you have to pursue. You have to keep trying. And when you try to introduce change into an organization, you really need all those skills at your fingertips when it comes to that, because
Yeah.
some people just ain't gonna like it.
Right. Well, you know what? I appreciate you coming on the show today. I appreciate this conversation very much because one of my big red flags is when I hear someone say, I can't find any good people. And the truth is, my own leadership style changed when I heard somebody say that, my job as a leader was to ensure the success of other people. And that meant teaching them the ways, not necessarily manage them. In fact, many of them have their own styles on how things can get done. Like you said, pull in the room and seeing if there are better ideas, because as time changes, better ideas are going to keep coming up. And you just got to be a little bit ahead of people. And that was something that you and I talked about a little bit earlier today before the show, was just really being able to lead people. Is you just got to be a little bit ahead of them, but that means you got to keep learning.
Absolutely,
Right.
because they change too. The
Right. They
world
will too.
changes, the people change. I actually did coaching skills for the St. Louis Cardinals and the St. Louis Blues in the town where I live. I didn't do it for the team or the coaches. I did it for all the ushers that managed all the other ushers. How to coach, how to be there, how to catch and keep doing things right, how to be there when they need help to do things better, and being present and the language that you can use instead of, the finger pointing or the other things that people have grown up and learned to do because that's what people did to them. You know what I'm saying? So
Yes.
that's very important, particularly in the hotel industry. There's a cultural change that needs to be happening there, and some people are getting it, and some people aren't. And I think that the ones who are going to get it are going to survive, and the ones who don't get it are going to struggle.
Yeah, I agree. Well, on that note, Phil, thank you so much for being here today and
You're
sharing
welcome.
your wealth of knowledge with us. If there's anybody watching, and we'll make sure to also include this in the show notes so the audience has access to it, but what's the best way for them to reach you?
Oh, Phil at treatemright.com, TreatemRight.com. Just go to treatemright.com. There's all kinds of stuff there for you. Go to the news section if you want to see some of the latest blogs. We've got a cool thing going in the state of Mississippi right now. We just trained over 700 people in 6 months with my online programs. That's pretty cool
Wow.
for them. And yeah, and you'd be surprised how wide and varied the different types of people are in the state of Georgia that are in the system, from police people down to people who own car washes. The insurance companies are taking this training because it's kind of like free customer experience training for folks like that.
Yeah, that's amazing. And thank you for doing that. And I love the name, Treat 'em Right.
Thank you.
That's really how it should be. So
Kind of simple.
yeah, I love it. Well, thank you again for being here. I'll see you
All right,
soon.
thank you.
All right, folks. I hope you enjoyed that show as much as I did today. I think that we've been so blessed to have some incredible guests on this show sharing a wealth of knowledge. I mean, 45 years in hospitality is quite an accomplishment, and we have probably a lot more that we could learn from Phil, but I only had an hour with him, 50 minutes with him. But I'm so glad that we could share this information with you today. If you are somebody like Phil who has information that'll help attractions and the hospitality world be better at what they do, I would love to have you on the show. And the best way to reach us to get on the show is to visit livewithsondra.com. There's a guest form there that you can go submit your request to be a guest. And when you submit a request to be a guest, that goes to our team, and we look at whether or not you'd be a good fit for the show. But almost always, if somebody takes that first step, in fact, we were talking about this backstage today, that we had a lot of people who approach us to be on the show, but the ones who actually take that step to fill out the form and come on the show, it's because they've got something to share with the world. And we know that you do have something to share with the world. We know that we can help each other out in this business of hospitality. And just forever grateful for those who are generous enough with their time to share that. Because if you listen to today's show and you even implemented the few simple things that we talked about that are actionable, you can do, this doesn't cost you anything, to just make some basic changes, like talking to your team about what would help them be better trained and to be better at what they do, or maybe even enjoy the workplace. Or if you looked at the correlation between how your team and your guests' happiness should be on the same trajectory, right? So, great guest today. I want to thank you all for listening, for watching. If you're watching this on replay, hashtag replay so that we know you were here. And if you are listening on the podcast networks, appreciate you. Appreciate your listening. And if you get a chance, make sure to stop by, follow us on YouTube, livewithsondra.com. And we appreciate the team who puts this show together. So there's just a lot of love happening today. It's a Monday. So I wake up every Monday really excited to start my week. And to have guests like this, like I say it all the time, I'm going to be all big brained one of these days. I already am, but here we go. All right, guys, take care. I'll see you on the next Live with Sondra.